Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Fixed on Jesus podcast. My name is Rich, and I'm joined as always by Mark and Heather. This is a little bit different podcast today. This episode, normally, in most of our episodes, we're lighthearted. We talk about theology, how to apply it to life. With the events of yesterday, September 10th, with Charlie Kirk and his assassination, it just seemed like an opportune moment just to stop and just ask some questions of that event. And so we wanted to be able to do that and get it out in a timely fashion. So that's what we're going to do here today.
Yeah, so I'll just get right into it. It's a confusing time. Lots of voices on the internet. You and I were just looking through some of them before this.
Right.
What should we want as Christians?
What should we want? Yeah, it's confusing because if you listen to the media, they'll tell you what you should want. Mm-hmm. And I think it's instructive to ask what should we want before we even ask how should we think, right? I think we should want justice, right? First and foremost, right? We should weep and pray that the person who did this is brought to justice because it was a horrific act, and there's all sorts of evil that happens in the world, and we should pray for justice in all those situations. But for many of our audience, this one hits different because they identified with him in a way that was unique. And so I think what we should want is justice and not revenge. Revenge is getting even, but taking matters into your own hands, we won't have opportunity to do that. But we should want justice. We should want the perpetrator brought to justice. We should want the person who did this. Should want them to be incarcerated and pay the price, the legal price that goes along with this. That's what we should want.
Yeah.
And in some way, and some measure, to be able to have God glorified through this. So that's part of what we can't understand or how it works, or how the Lord will use it. I mean, I don't know how that works out. I don't know, where that is, but it's clear we live in a fallen world.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, it's all through the headlines. But yeah, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on a college campus yesterday, September 10th. And as of the time of this recording, they have not caught the suspect. They have a few suspects, but they have not caught.
They haven't caught anybody.
Perpetrator.
Right.
So, just in general, we're Christians. We're doing this on behalf of a church. What is the Christian response to a tragedy like this?
Yeah, I mean, along with wanting justice, I think our response should be to grieve and to weep and to pray. Now, it's not going to hit everybody the same. I think we need to also be understanding with people who didn't follow him as closely. I've talked to many people. Some people were very emotional. Others didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And so we need to be gracious and kind with people who are in different spots than we are. Number one. For those of you that hit strongly, I think we should grieve and we should weep and we should pray, right? We weep with those who weep, and it's, I don't think it's time to just sort of give cliche, pat answers. And I think we make big, big mistakes if we say too much too fast or sort of prognosticate and say, here's what this means, or here's what it doesn't mean, or all those kinds of things. We don't know much yet. We don't know the motives yet. We don't know those things yet. There's going to be all kinds of speculation.
Right.
And the internet fuels on speculation. And so I think we want to stop and we want to pray for his wife and his children that are going to have to grow up without a father.
Yeah.
I think should have just recognize that, at a basic human fundamental level, he was an image bearer, and his life was taken from him at 31 years old, and it's tragic. It's grievous, and those things are not things that we should just gloss over. And
right.
I think it's worthwhile as you interact with someone who is maybe not as effective not as affected as you are, don't say, how could you be that way? Or maybe someone who you feel like is too emotional, to say, how could you be that way? I mean, it's going to hit everybody different, and we need to leave room for people to process this news in the ways that they're wired, and that's okay. And so I think we want to grieve and weep and pray. I think we want to use our words carefully. We want to be a light unto the world as we speak, as we interact with people, and recognize that this is evil. We don't need to back off from just expressing the fact that it was evil, because evil is not an illusion.
Yeah.
Evil is real. And sometimes we get to see the face of evil, recorded with a video camera. And sometimes and when you see it, you can't walk away without being without recoiling, right? And so like that's a reality there.
Yeah.
And so I think we should just take time to weep and pray and not get out. I mean, my recommendation is not to throw a bunch of opinions out on social media about what this means or what's next or how we should, whatever, right? There's enough people throwing hot takes out there that are, marginally helpful.
Yeah.
And that's just my thought.
Yeah. So you touched some on the feeling of how people feel differently. If someone is strongly affected by this, why do you think that is? Is it because he was a Christian? Is it because he was a conservative?
I think probably all of the above, and I think probably the primary reason is because, he was
effective.
And people identified with him.
Yeah,
they identified with him. He was. I think for a lot of people, he was expressing the things they believed in a winsome way, and he was like a spokesman. It's different, right? And so like I don't want to, draw, I don't want to draw false comparisons, but it wasn't the same when we heard about the CEO of the insurance company getting shot out in front of Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to do some kind of like, hey, it's not that bad because we see this or that or whatever. It just feels different because for a lot of people, he expressed what they believed. And
Brian Thompson.
Yeah, you had to look it up.
I know, that's unfortunate.
And so, but it's for a lot of people. Charlie Kirk was he said what they believed, right? And so they feel like they lost an advocate in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And so
and a brother in Christ.
And a brother in Christ, right? And so like and at one level we should be reviled by this kind of evil. At another level we should recognize that this kind of evil happens all over the place. 150,000 people die every day.
Wow.
I'm not trying to minimize Charlie Kirk. I'm just trying to remind us that we live in a fallen world.
Where death entered.
The world is fallen and it's broken, and sometimes we see it up close and personal. Sometimes we can go years without feeling it. And so this is a surprise. It's a shock. It should be. But at the same level, we live in an age of evil.
Yeah.
And evil is going to invade, personally and sometimes at a national level like this.
Yeah, so speaking of evil, how do we simultaneously know that God is sovereign, but is how does God allow this evil, I guess, could be a question on someone's mind.
Where was God when this happened, right? And so, I mean, this is a question some are asking now. I mean, it'll be a question we will all ask at some point when, some kind of tragedy hits us personally. Maybe it's a cancer diagnosis, maybe it's a car crash, maybe it's some other tragedy that comes and just takes away someone in a moment that we love. Yeah. Those are all natural questions. I think the way that I try to think about this kind of thing is, there's all kinds of philosophical ways we can talk about God being sovereign. We know God is sovereign, meaning he's in control of all things. We know that he's also not responsible for evil. We know he's not the author of evil, and we know that he's good. And so the those kinds of things we have to just hold in tension and recognize, okay, we're not going to be able to explain why the Lord allowed this to happen. We're not going to be able to explain the purposes, the reasons, the whys and the wherefores and all that kind of stuff. We're just not. But we can know for sure and for certain that Jesus entered our evil world. I mean, that is the biggest thing here for us, is that our evil world, our world is not just evil today, and it's not more evil yesterday or today than it was, the day before that. I mean, here we are in the 24th anniversary of 9/11. And so we're not even talking about 9/11 right now, but I mean, thousands of people lost their lives. And so the thing that brings so much comfort is not necessarily the answer of how could God allow this if he's good. The thing that brings comfort is Jesus Christ came as the God-man, being sent by God the Father to live in this evil world and be treated as if he was evil, though he was perfect and good and without sin.
Yeah.
He was treated as if he was a horrendous criminal, hung on a cross and died a substitutionary death for us, right? Now, we might not be able to explain the philosophy of why God allowed this, but we can say, okay, look at the cross.
Yeah.
He's not removed from evil. It's not as if evil doesn't affect him. He was affected full force by the evil of, sin and death. I mean, and that's the reality, because sin and death, we're not designed. Part of what makes this feel so wrong is that we as humans are designed to live forever. But sin and death have entered the world, and by entering in the world have changed the game, and our world's broken.
Yeah.
And so there's signs of the brokenness all over the place, but sometimes it happens in such a way that it sort of gets our attention, and I think that's what this is.
Yeah. Speaking in terms of evil, what do we make of others cheering on the death of someone like Charlie Kirk, or in general, like celebrating it? How do we cope with that? What is that?
That's evil.
Yeah.
That's evil too. I mean, like, to be able to celebrate somebody's assassination, he wasn't a criminal. And so, like, it's different than, like, say, Osama bin Laden, who was the mastermind behind 9/11 and everything. He was brought to justice.
Yeah.
Right. That's not what's going on here. Here's a man who was innocent, and he was shot in cold blood. And that's wrong at every level. And I don't think we should draw back from saying that. That's evil. It shouldn't have happened. It's bad. I mean, and it can be tempting to be thinking, oh my goodness, here's someone that was just communicating what they believe, and they were shot for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Scary.
It is. It's scary. I mean, like, at some level, because, like, who are the people that say things that are the most unpopular? And that's Christians, right? And, we preach and communicate a gospel of Jesus Christ that is a stumbling block and that's offensive, right? And it's not a political ideology. It's not on the right. It's not on the left. It's the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so, I know that there could be people afraid, okay, what does this mean for us as Christians in the world today, right? I think what we need to step back and remember is that for most of human history, people have not had the freedom we have, and it's been a wonderful, and we've enjoyed it, and we have the freedom to speak, what our minds, and the First Amendment is the free speech. That hasn't been the way it is for most of human history.
Yeah.
And so this blessing that we've enjoyed has been wonderful, and I'm not trying to say that it's coming to an end or that it's over for good, but here we have somebody who was. And there are other examples, but someone who was shot because of what he said, right? And so that's
what he represented.
What he represented. That's dangerous, right? And political violence on the right or the left is there's just no place for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we should recognize that this is a story that has been told many times. There's political violence that has been happening since mankind has occupied this ground.
Yeah.
Post Eden. And so that doesn't make it right, doesn't make it good, it doesn't mean we should come to terms with it, but it's also, that's the way of the world that we live in, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for Christians, as we think about it, I mean, we can be tempted to be either, at least as the dust settles, and we should want justice, we should grieve, we should weep, but as the dust settles and we think, okay, what does this mean? I think there can be two different responses. One is fear and one is anger, right? The fear of like, okay, what does this mean? I'm going to lose my, am I now going to be persecuted for what I believe?
Yeah. Or should I not express
should I hide it? Yeah, right. And so like, I think Christians for down through the centuries have been persecuted for what they believe. And so Peter even says in chapter 3, 1 Peter chapter 3, he talks about, bless those who persecute you. I mean, let me read Romans chapter 12. Chapter 12, beginning in verse 14. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. I mean, just think about that. To be persecuted we're not talking about persecuted for our political beliefs. We're talking about persecuted for the cause of Christ. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so as far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by so doing, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And so I think one of the things that could happen now is that the right is going to say, you know what, I'm done. You know what, I'm angry and I'm going after you.
Yeah.
And the left says the same. And then you've got all kinds of, back and forth, and you've got this really divisive, we've already been a divided country, but even more.
Yeah.
Right?
This is the polarizing moment.
Yeah. And I think like what happened with Kirk is like it's like a moment in time that people will remember, especially young people, because they followed him a lot. Right. And so it's like they're JFK or MLK, but like they're going to remember this. And so, and a lot of political response on the right is going to be anger and let's get even, I'm done. A lot on the left is like, he deserved this. This is what he had coming because of his divisive speech or whatever, right? I think this is where we as Christians have an opportunity to be different. We can grieve and we can weep, but we never grieve and weep without hope.
Yeah.
And we can be different and say, listen, here's the truth of what we have. We hang our hat not on a political party, not on a political ideology. We hang our hat on Christ and him crucified. We have that message to proclaim. Regardless of how people vote, the message we have that will be in our lips is Jesus Christ is the only hope.
Yeah.
He is the only one we can trust without reservation. He's the only one that we can give ourselves wholly to without reserve. He's the only one it's safe to invest all of ourselves into without fear of getting let down.
Yeah.
Every other leader, no matter who they are, will let you down, or be taken away from us prematurely, but not Jesus. And so we need to realize is that our foundation is built not on a political ideology, not on the Republican Party, but on Jesus Christ, right? Mm-hmm. And so that in and of itself is going to make us different. And so as we respond to our enemies, there are going to be people who are against us because we believe Christ is the only way. And we believe that there is no other hope that someone can be saved but by calling upon the name of Jesus Christ and repenting of their sins. There's no other way.
Yeah.
People are going to hate us for that, and they're going to persecute us for that. And at some level, I'm not saying we should celebrate the persecution, but at some level we should expect it, because that's what our brothers and sisters have gone through for centuries, and even are going through now in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
It's just new and different for us as Christians. But we have the opportunity now to preach Christ and preach the hope he gives. That doesn't have an expiration date. It's not about who's in political office, but it's about him reigning right now, right?
Yeah.
And so and you can rest assured that there is nobody who's going to get away with any evil, because Jesus will make all things right. He's going to make all things new. And there'll be one day where he personally wipes away every tear from your eye. And that in and of itself is what can bring us comfort, right?
Yeah.
We have a greater reason for comfort than anybody else. So we're not going to be people who are afraid. I don't think we should be fearful. We should be courageous and strong and recognize that, it may be that in the weeks and years and months to come, that it falls to our lot to preach Christ in a place that message is more unwelcome than ever.
Yeah.
And if we can't be afraid, we have to step out in faith and recognize that, that's our job. That's why we're here at some level.
Yeah.
And we don't need to be angry. We can be angry that this happened, but to rage against people, they're not Christians. They don't know any better on both the right and the left, right?
Yeah.
And so this is why people don't get saved through Republican politics. People don't get saved through Democratic politics. They get saved by following Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And so we need to remember that. We need to remember that it's moments like this where we have a message that's unique.
Yeah.
You don't have to be afraid, because there's someone who's with you at every level all the time. He's closer than a brother, closer than your shadow. He promises never to leave you or forsake you. And you don't have to be angry, because when you're angry, you're storing up vengeance for other people. You know what? He's got that. You can be kind and friendly and loving to your enemies. He will repay vengeance. It belongs to him and not to us. So I think we need to just keep those things in mind.
Yeah. No, that's great. One of my questions was about proclaiming Christ to unbelievers in light of tragedy. But I think you kind of addressed that. Like, we should continue to be bold as Christians. We're not trying to win someone to a political party. First, we're trying to win them to Christ.
Yeah, and I think we don't have to shrink back. We can communicate, this is what I think, and this is why I have reason for hope these days. Right?
Right.
We should, like Paul says, we don't grieve like the pagans do. Right? There are solid reports that saying that he was a Christian. Like, he's with Jesus now.
Yeah.
And if as you interact with people, they're grieving. We can grieve with them too, but we don't ever grieve without hope.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, the response isn't to be scared or fearful either.
No, not to be afraid, because, there's just, if we're afraid, we cower, we shrink back, we pull our punches, we're not the salt and light that we're called to be in the world today, And so, our job, like, the reason that our church exists is to proclaim the message of Jesus Christ. And we can't pull those punches. That's the reason we exist.
Yeah.
We don't promote a political party, either right or left. Other organizations can do that. But the church, the local church, the faithful local churches sprinkled throughout the world, there's only one thing they're good for, and that's the proclamation of Christ. And to communicate to unbelievers, this is the only way you can be saved, and to believers, this is the only way you can have hope. Right? Everything else is sinking sand.
Yeah.
And so that's our message.
Yeah.
And that message sometimes is in season and sometimes it's out of season. And so that's part of it. And we should expect to be persecuted for our message.
Yeah.
We should expect to have, our brothers and sisters are shedding blood for that message in many parts of the world today. And many brothers and sisters of ours have gone to glory having shed blood because they refuse to be silent and they preach Christ, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if we look ahead with worst case scenario vision, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And everybody who says they know what's going to happen, they don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what this means for the landscape of the Christian church. We don't know.
Yeah.
We do know, though, that we're called to preach and be faithful and also be joyful in the midst of it, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't need to go around. Obviously, I'm not trying to say we should be foolish, right? We're not glad that this happened to him. But at the same time, we can rejoice in the Lord,
Yeah.
knowing that he is working all things together in ways we don't understand. He doesn't explain his terms or explain his ways, but what he does is give us reason. He gives us reason to rejoice every day. Our
Yeah.
sins are forgiven. The evil world is here now, and it's here in force, and we feel the hot breath of Satan, but that is one day going to come to an end.
Oh, that's great.
And all things will be made right.
So what do you mean by persecution?
Yeah, throughout the Bible, persecution is specific. It has a very narrow definition, which is people who are attacked either verbally or physically for the preaching of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Right. And we have brothers and sisters around the world that are being attacked now because they preach Christ.
But not so much in the U.S.
Not in the U.S.
Or we don't see it, at least.
We don't see it as much. I mean, we're Americans, so we don't see that, right? And so so whenever Peter, like when Peter talks about it in 1 Peter 3, he's not thinking politically.
Yeah.
He's thinking because he's like, you will be persecuted as you are as you are salt and light for Jesus Christ. And so that happens, right? And so one of the fears people can have is that maybe this will be a tipping point so that we've got now the doors open for more persecution.
Right.
And so,
Unknown.
we don't know.
Yeah, lots of unknowns.
We don't know, but we know that there's lots of different seasons in the history of the church where Christians were persecuted for their faith.
Yeah.
There's lots of people who suffered the fires of persecution because they preached Christ.
Yeah.
Lots of people. And so we don't know what the future holds, but we know that that's been something that Christians have had to deal with over the centuries.
Yeah. So is this a call for Christians to bear arms or to take action in some way?
Like
Violence, physical?
with violence. Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of people saying, like, hey, we need to watch out for that. And I think what we need to realize is that no, we're not called to be the sword here. The Lord himself has set forth in Romans chapter 13, good government, I should say, is, because not all government's good, but all governing authorities are put in place by him.
Yeah.
And, those that are a part of the government should be able to bring justice here. But it's not for us to go vigilante. It's not for us to take to the streets. It's for us to grieve and weep and pray.
Yeah.
And pray that the government is wise, in the local, state, and national levels to be able to find wise and be able to find out who this is.
Yeah.
And then bring
punish
justice to them and bring just punishment, because that's the role of government. That's what Romans 13 says.
Yeah.
That's the role of government. And as Christians, we don't have the right to bear arms to take justice into our own hands.
That makes sense.
And bring revenge, which is, I mean, like we read in Romans chapter 12.
Yeah.
Right. We're not supposed to. That's beyond the pale for us. Now, if you're a police officer in Utah in that town, then that's different, right?
Yeah.
Your job is to go do justice, but that's not our job here.
Right.
That's
We
not
can
our
pray
job.
for those
We can
people.
pray for it. Yeah.
pray for it
that's
to
not,
happen.
we can't take to the streets and turn to violence.
Yeah.
We just can't. That's clear in the Bible.
And
I mean, it's also clear, like with how Jesus, like if there was ever a corrupt government to throw off or whatever, or to call to civil war, it would have been Jesus, and he didn't do that.
yeah.
I mean, the Roman government was far more oppressive, far worse.
Yeah.
They were killing people for no reason at all. They would make political statements by the fact that they would be, but just by who they crucified.
Yeah.
Jesus never called them to arms. But he called them to be, to recognize that the weapons of our warfare, as Paul says in 2 Corinthians, are not carnal. They're not physical. They're spiritual.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we shine the light of Christ into whatever area the Lord's called us to. And we don't take matters into our own hands to be vengeful in that way.
I think you addressed a little bit of this earlier, but what about like a keyboard warrior type of vigilante?
I think we need to be careful. I mean, because everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak. I think that
Applies to the internet.
That applies to the internet. like all the time, but especially now. And so I think we need to be real careful about what we say out on the internet, and real careful about our hot takes, and real careful about who did what for what reason and why and all that kind of stuff. We don't know.
Right.
It's the role, I think, of the Christian to step back, trust the Lord, let his hand work in this. He's good. He's gonna bring something about that we don't quite understand yet.
Yeah.
Seek the Lord. And it's tempting also just to follow the news, like, oh my goodness, this is the most important thing. And that's not going to help our souls either.
Right.
It's going to be much more fruitful and effective to our souls just to be able to just maybe spend more time in prayer, more time reading the Word, more time fellowshipping with mature saints and talking this stuff through.
Yeah.
And, letting it, instead of just, being glued to our feeds, those are just some thoughts there.
Yeah. No, thank you. Any other wisdom as we process this as a nation and also just as Christians here at the local church?
I think anytime people are talking about the same thing in the world, like in our environment, because it's not generally, this doesn't happen. We all have our own algorithms. We all follow different things in the news, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes everybody's talking about one thing, and that's what people.
That's this moment.
About. It's that moment, and so I think we can show people how to think, how to respond graciously by grieving.
Yeah.
By hoping, praying, and talking about seeking justice, but also by communicating the hope that we have in Jesus Christ, right?
So it's an opportune time to be a good Christian witness.
It's an opportunity to be able to be a witness in the world today.
Just being the salt and light and being different than the algorithm.
Yeah, we don't need to be afraid.
Yeah.
We don't need to be angry. We can be quietly confident that the Lord is working all things together for good here. We can be quietly confident, like Joseph tells his brothers in Genesis 50, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. And so this could be an opportunity. This whole horrific event could be an opportunity for us to be able to witness to and proclaim Christ to people that are feeling hopeless, or maybe they feel like they got their spokesman taken away.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to say, hey, listen, that's horrific, but there's a spokesman who speaks a better word.
Yeah.
And he's never going away.
He's eternal.
Right. Just to be able to say, hey, he's there.
Right.
And he'll provide you hope, because there's going to be a lot of people searching for answers.
Yeah. Do you think they'll recognize it'll be easier for them to recognize the brokenness of the world and the evil that's in it?
Absolutely. I mean, and then they could be asking bigger questions. Right. And that's where we come in.
Yeah.
It's time for us to answer some of those big questions.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thanks for getting on here. If you're listening and you have any questions, feel free to reach out at production@centergilbert.com, and just continue to pray for the families and the people involved.
Yeah, thank you very much.